This week, Chancellor Rachel Reeves confirmed that the budget would take place on the 26th of November, significantly later than the date of the budget last year, the 30th of October. It's no secret that Rachel Reeves has her work cut out. Borrowing costs have skyrocketed. There's talk of a £40 billion fiscal black hole, and she's still constrained by Labour's manifesto promise last year not to raise taxes on working people, which has been interpreted to mean raising income tax, national insurance and VAT, which together account for 40% of total tax receipts. As a result of all this, journalists and economists seem to think that Reeves will need to get creative in the budget to try and raise tax revenue without causing too much financial pain to those that can't afford it. So in this video, we're going to look into one of these ideas, starting by explaining some of the issues with council tax as it stands, two separate proposed property taxes, and whether either of these could actually work. Dive deeper into politics with our magazine Too Long. Yes, we make a real physical magazine. In the latest issue, we discuss if Starmer just has no vision for Britain, if Farage can become Prime Minister, and ask if we're observing the end of the American order. Find out more by clicking the link in the description. So let's start by explaining council tax. Now, essentially, each property is assigned a council tax band, from A to H. The band is determined by the value of the property in 1991. Any house with a value of up to £40,000 in 1991 is in band A. Anything from £40,001 to £52,000 is in band B. Anything from £52,001 to £68,000 is in band C, etc. All the way up to £320,000+, which is band H. Any properties built since 1991 are given an antecedent valuation date, or AVD, which is essentially the value the property could have sold for in 1991. Now, there are some pretty obvious issues with this. First, a lot's changed since 1991. Some areas have increased in value and some decreased. In fact, the IFS has estimated that households in the North and Midlands are in too high a band and pay too much, while households in London are in too low a band and pay too little. This can be exacerbated by the fact that each council sets their own rates, meaning that a house in the same band will pay vastly different amounts in different areas. Second, the bands mean that there's an upper limit to the tax, irrespective of the value of your property. As we mentioned a second ago, to be in band H, a property needs to have a 1991 value of £320,000, or roughly £880,000 today. However, if the house is valued at £1 million, £2 million, or even £10 million today, as many houses are, they still fall into band H and will pay the same in council tax, assuming they're in the same local authority. In practice, this means council tax is appallingly regressive, with lower income households in poorer areas generally paying a higher effective tax rate than higher income households in richer areas. An LSE analysis, for instance, found that poorer households pay 5% of their gross household income on average towards council tax, whereas the richest only pay 1%. This isn't the case with income tax or national insurance, where, generally speaking, the richer you get, the higher the proportion of your income you pay towards the tax. Clearly, council tax is a rubbish tax, which is part of the reason that the media and economists have suggested that some kind of shake-up should be included in Rachel Reeves' budget. Not only would this make the UK's tax system less regressive, replacing council tax with a well-designed property tax could also ease the UK's housing crisis without discouraging work, as many other taxes like income tax do. Now, a report from UK Onwards, a centre-right think tank, outlined one potential way this property tax could work. Essentially, their suggestion was for a horizontal property tax that would replace not only council tax but also stamp duty, a tax paid when purchasing a property. Stamp duty is also a rubbish tax because it discourages people from moving house, which in turn exacerbates the UK's housing crisis. Anyway, the new tax would be designed to balance payments to local and national government, while also trying to improve fairness to taxpayers. Essentially, while local governments could set the rate, they suggest that homeowners would pay an average of 0.44% of the value of their property, up to £500,000, to local government each year, with a minimum payment of £800. The value of any property between £500,000 and £1 million would be charged at 0.54% and are paid to the national government, and anything in excess of £1 million would be charged at 0.81% and paid to the national government. UK Onwards suggests that this proposal is preferable for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's significantly fairer than the current system, as it's a progressive rather than a regressive tax. Second, the council tax part of the change is revenue neutral, meaning that the government would still collect the same amount of tax revenue as they do currently. And thirdly, depending on how it's implemented, it could result in fewer property valuations by local government, as only properties up to £500,000 would need valuing, as this is the cap for the local government part of the tax. However, this would be a significant change. The government, despite promising to at various points, have still not even conducted a revaluation of property prices since 1991, presumably at least in part because of the fear of backlash from those that would have to pay more as a result. Therefore, perhaps it would be more realistic to look at a property tax that would merely adjust rather than completely replace the current council tax system. This is where a recent proposal from John Muellbauer, a professor at Oxford University, comes in. Now, he proposed that the current council tax system remains as it is for everybody up to bands G and H, the top two bands. For those in these bands, Muellbauer suggests replacing the current council tax with a new annual property wealth tax of 0.5%. In total, this would affect 1.1 million properties in England and Wales. In order to mitigate the effect of taxing those that are asset rich but cash poor, he suggested that payment could be deferred until the property is sold. But if this is opted for, this would increase the tax to 0.6%. Now, crucially, only revenue in excess of what council tax would have raised would accrue to the central government, ensuring that no local authority loses out. The benefit of this change is that it would bring, alongside a 1% tax on all agricultural and unoccupied land valued at £40,000 per hectare, around £9 billion extra into the exchequer each year. Additionally, as it isn't a complete overhaul of the system, akin to the UK Onwards proposal, it might actually be something the government could consider, with the backlash being far more limited. So, while on its own this wouldn't be enough to close the fiscal black hole, it would certainly be a start, and something that Reeves could consider including in her autumn budget. It's no secret that problem solving is always found at the heart of politics, whether that's through making important decisions or just understanding how the world works. Here at TLDR, we want to stay on top of our problem solving too, so that's why we use Brilliant. Brilliant is an incredibly comprehensive online learning platform that helps you become a better thinker and problem solver, designed specifically to teach you everything from maths, data analysis, programming, and AI from the ground up. You don't need a fancy degree or to have dedicated hundreds of hours to studying, as Brilliant gets you stuck in at the perfect level, allowing you to first start with mastering the foundations, then helps you level up to increasingly challenging problems. Take their fantastic data courses, for example. Whether you're starting fresh or continuing your learning journey, Brilliant offers everything from basics, like data visualizations, to advanced topics like algorithms and regression models. Using real-world data from Airbnb, Spotify, Starbucks, and more, you'll learn to see trends, parse and visualize massive datasets, and make better informed decisions. To start tackling those problems and try Brilliant for free, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or you can click the link in the description. By doing so, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription, and they'll know that you came from us, which really helps us out.